You may think you've heard it all before. The notorious killers, the gruesome details, the heart-stopping twist. But this case takes it to a whole new level. This pint-sized predator is like nothing you've ever seen before. A child who seems innocent on the surface but hides darkness within that is all too real. Welcome back to another episode of Twisted Minds. Today, we're delving into a case that surely chills down your spine. We are unfolding the case of the world's youngest killer, and he's not just the world's youngest killer. He's also a serial killer. This means that he must have killed at least 3 people to earn that title. Intrigue. Let's get into it. Sahar was home to a lot of people who were struggling to make ends meet. They worked long hours in a scorching heat of India, but still their wages were barely enough to support their families. It was a tough life, but there was one thing that kept them going: the children. The village was teeming with little ones, and they brought a sense of joy and light to the community. They played together, and their games were a welcome distraction for the hard-working villagers who had little else to look forward to. The families in this village were closely connected, and most of them were related. They banded together to support each other through tough times. But it was the children who truly made a difference. The Sada family was spread out across the village. They had lots of cousins, uncles, and aunts who were their neighbors. They didn't need to go far to see their family in this close-knit community. Sada family thrived. They knew that they were never alone, and their family and friends were always there to support them. And so, despite their hardships, they lived a joyful life in the village that they called home. The children of the Sada family loved nothing more than playing together in the streets, and amongst them was a sweet 6-year-old girl. One day she headed out for her usual playtime with her cousins, but after the games were over, she didn't return home. Days passed, and still there was no sign of her. The villagers took notice, but they didn't want to intrude on the family's privacy, assuming that they had the situation under control. This was the way of the village, where people respected each other's boundaries and didn't pry into their personal affairs. Not long after the disappearance, the family was blessed with the arrival of another baby girl. Everyone was overjoyed, but soon after her birth, this little girl also disappeared. The family was devastated, and the whole village was in shock. How could this happen again? The mother had carried this precious newborn for 9 months, but now she was gone. It was hard to believe that this could just be a coincidence, but someone took away her new ray of hope. There seemed to be no explanation regarding the strange things happening. The Sada family did not say anything that anyone regarding the case. Family remained tight-lipped about whole affair, refusing to divulge any information to other villagers, as if she had just been erased from their family. Her disappearance seemed not to matter to them. To onlookers, it was a baffling situation. How could anyone be so nonchalant about the disappearance of one of their own children? There were no visible signs of grief for mourning, no tears shed, and no story shared about the 2 young girls. It was as if they had never existed in the first place. They began to wonder what was happening and why they behaved this way. 2 young girls just disappeared from the face of the earth, and no one was saying anything about it. Fate had other plans, and tragedy struck the village once again in 2007. This infant was a 6-month-old baby girl. However, this time the victim was not a member of the Sada family, but a sweet, innocent baby girl named Kushboo. Crispa's mother had dropped her off at the village primary school, thinking it was a safe place for her to be while she went to work. It was meant to be a safe haven, a place of security and love. But when her mother returned to pick her up, she was met with a nightmare. Kushba was nowhere to be found, snatched away in the blink of an eye. As soon as the mother realized her daughter was missing, she had to find her baby no matter what it took. Without a moment's hesitation, she sprang into action, running frantically around the village and asking anyone she met if they had seen her little girl. She was desperate for any clue, any hint of wherever daughter might be, but no one seemed to have any information. The staff at the primary school where her daughter was last seen was just as confused and worried as she was. They had no idea how the child could have disappeared without anyone noticing. Desperate to find her missing daughter, Kushba's mother scoured the entire village for any leads. No one seemed to know anything about the little girl's whereabouts. Just when all hope seemed lost, she stumbled upon a member of the Sada family. As she poured her heart out, explaining what happened to Kushbo, family members seemed to have an inkling of what might have taken place. Without hesitation, they accompanied the mother to the police station to report the missing child. There they shared all the details they had about Kushbo and provided the police with a possible suspect. It was a glimmer of hope in an otherwise hopeless situation. With her sense of urgency, the authorities took up the case and made their way to the small village to confront the prime suspect. The two of them took the police-stored group of children who gathered each day at the same spot to play. They singled out one particular boy and called him out of the crowd. The seemingly innocent child, bewildered and unsure, rushed over to meet the police. The officials asked the little boy if he knew anything about Kushba's disappearance. The boy, without hesitation, said yes. The villagers held their breath as the little boy stood before the police, hoping that he would provide some helpful insight into Kushbo's disappearance. They were expecting to hear about her last known whereabouts, or anyone had seen her leave the village, but with the boy told, the officers left. Everyone stunned. With the determined look in his eye, the boy spoke with unwavering conviction. He looked the officer dead in the eye and told her that Kushbo was not missing, but she was dead, and the reason that he knew that was that he killed her himself. Villagers stood frozen in disbelief, struggling to come to terms with what they had just heard. The confession was beyond anyone's wildest imagination. Initially, the police dismissed the little boy's claims, believing that he was just playing some sort of cruel joke of him. They thought that he was just trying to waste their time by saying bizarre and outlandish things. However, their skepticism quickly turned up when the boy led them to the exact spot where he had tried to hide the body of the young child. Their fears were quickly confirmed. As they arrived at the location, officers could feel their stomachs churn. The sight before them was too much to bear. There was a shallow grave where the little boy had buried the innocent baby. The little boy's story was no longer a twisted prank or figment of his imagination. The boy then began to tell them the chilling story of how he had taken Kushba from school, and nobody had noticed him leaving with her. He carried her to a secluded area where he intended to satisfy his twisted desires. He started by strangling the baby, hoping to elicit a reaction of fear or desperation from her. But as the baby continued to cry, the boy grew frustrated that his efforts weren't enough to make him feel powerful. Determined to prove his dominance, he grabbed a stone from the ground and began striking helpless baby with it until her body gave out. The officers couldn't believe the horror that they were hearing. The boy told the police while laughing, "I killed her by repeatedly hitting her with a brick." This innocent-seeming boy was describing the senseless murder of a helpless baby who had done nothing wrong to anyone. What was more disturbing than that was the fact that the person telling the story was a little boy himself. The story checked out. He was not making up a story out of his imagination. He was not boasting in front of his friends. This actually happened. The police realized the seriousness of the situation and immediately took the young boy to the police station. This was the youngest criminal that the police had ever seen, and he was sitting right in front of them, except he did not look or act like a criminal. The little boy kept quiet most of the time. He remained seated, swaying his feet in the chair and smiling at the officers whenever they looked at him. To Inspector Chatrud and Kumar, it was baffling how this young boy could be capable of such a monstrous act. The boy even demanded biscuits, as if he had no idea the gravity of his actions. It was almost as if he couldn't comprehend the concept of death or the irreversible consequences of his actions. The officer kept looking for a reason, asking the boy, "Why did you do it?" But the boy had no answer. He simply just kept smiling. This little boy was 8 years old. Amarjeet Sada. He was born in 1998 in Bagastar, Bihar, to a poor family. His father was a laborer with very low pay. When on average he was 7 years old, his baby sister was born, bringing the family to a total of 4 children. With so many mouths to feed and repeated pregnancies, it became difficult for the family to manage their income, and so in hopes of finding a job that could be sufficient for the family, they moved to the village of Musahar, where incidents occurred. As a child, Amarjeet was quiet and reserved. He seemed like a normal kid. So how come a member of his own family suspected Amarjeet had something to do with the missing children? The disappearance of 2 girls from the Sada family was not a mere coincidence. By now it was clear they were ruthlessly murdered by none other than Amarjeet. 2006, his 6-year-old cousin had gone missing, and at the time Amarjeet was 7 years old, and as Amarjeet committed his crimes, it was uncovered that he killed his own cousin in the same brutal way. Killed baby Kushbuk. Amarjeet had taken his cousin to a secluded area where he strangled her while enjoying the fear that took over her body. This little girl fought for her life, kicking and screaming, but just as she was about to lose her life and Reggie let go of her neck, she grasps for air and tried to catch her breath, but Amarjeet wasn't done yet. He grabbed a nearby rock and smashed her head with it until she passed away. It seems like there's a disturbing pattern of aversion here. This young boy had a cruel streak and took pleasure in causing suffering to those he killed. Soon after the murder, his family found out about him, as Amarjeet did not keep his sins a secret. When asked about it, he immediately confessed. The truth came out in front of his whole family, including the father of the girl, his uncle. And what did the family decide to do about it? Keep quiet. Yes, sadly, the family considered it a family matter, and so they thought they should keep this information to themselves and not get any third party involved. They chose to protect the boy. They may have thought that Amarjeet was too young to fully grasp the idea of death, so he didn't really understand what happened. His family talked to him and tried to help him understand, and then they all tried to move on from the side of it. They hoped that Amarjeet had learned from what happened and wouldn't do anything like that again, a decision that they quickly regretted because it led him to becoming the youngest serial killer in the world. Unfortunately, a few months later, something very disturbing happened. Despite his family's efforts, Amarjeet once again showed signs of his dangerous behavior. This time, he turned his attention to his own home, his own blood, his own family. His little sister, Amarjeet's mother, had put his newborn baby sister down for a nap. Seeing her sleep so peacefully, Amarjeet went over to her. He took her out of the house to an isolated area and repeated the same thing with her, the same cruel heinous act. Within 6 months, the boy had caused the death of 2 innocent people. When the family realized the 2 were missing, they went to talk to Amarjeet. He immediately admitted to killing him without trying to hide it, but the family stood by his side and kept the whole incident a secret. At the time when Kushbo died, the circumstances were different. This was not a member of the family, so he could not count on them to keep the family's lips shut. The mother was not going to back down. She wanted answers, she wanted justice for her baby. Word got out, police got involved, and the boy was taken into custody. There are lots of speculations regarding the family's decision to sweep everything under the carpet. Some say the reason why the Sada family did not report the boy who killed their daughters was to shield him, as in certain families boys are seen as valuable assets while girls are deemed to be burdens. Had the boy murdered male members of the family, they may have reported it. Is a regrettable reality, and of course there is a possibility of him being subjected to severe abuse by his family throughout his life until that moment, which might have been the source of his sadistic tendencies. After all, where does such a young boy learn of such heinous acts? According to the laws in India, Amarjeet was too young to be held accountable for his crimes when he committed murder. As a result, he was sent to a juvenile home where he was isolated from others. Medical experts who treated Amarjeet discovered that he enjoyed hurting others and suffered from a behavioral disorder called conduct disorder. The condition can cause kids to become antisocial and can lead to violent acts such as murder, assault, or sexual crimes. The hope is that the years of treatment and therapy that emerging received while in the juvenile home help them out. He's likely using different name and living a different life. Seeing that he was born in 1998, Amarjeet would be turning 25 in 2023. Would you consider the rehabilitated 25-year-old Amarjeet as the same person who committed those heinous acts all those years ago? We can only hope that he has grown and changed since then. Amarjeet Sada's case is considered to be one of the most shocking and disturbing cases of juvenile crime in India. The case is a heartbreaking reminder of the importance of early intervention and mental health support for children who exhibit concerning behavior. Although his crimes were heinous and his actions unforgivable, we can't help but wonder what could have led a child to commit such atrocities. Whatever the case may be, one thing is for sure, Amarjeet Sada will go down in history as one of the most infamous serial killers of all time. Let's just hope that we never have to encounter anyone like him again. Thanks for watching. That was the case of Amarjeet Sada. Click on one of the videos on your screen for another one of our videos.